I'm Roy Akers from Skyview Sports, and with me I have David McDonald. David, tell us about where you're from, and we're going to talk some Panthers football.
Absolutely. It's good to see you, Roy. My name is David McDonald. I am a sports reporter for the Pitt Sports and Entertainment. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Panthers season through the first 8 games.
Yeah, it's really weird about the UFL this year. I was looking at the standings, and everybody's clinched, and they clinched with 3 games to go.
Yeah.
Usually, the Detroit Lions, when they make the playoffs, except for last year, well, if they wear polka dots on a really rainy day, except for when they wear stripes, and it has to be before Labor Day, they might make the playoffs. But in the UFL, all the teams have made it. St. Louis has made it. I think it's the Brahmas have made it, and of course, Birmingham and the Michigan Panthers have all made it, and made it with 3 games left to go in the season. That's outstanding. Do you think you would have seen that after the first 4 games, when we looked at the Panthers, we're at all the games, we're credentialed, we go in the locker room, 4 games, 2-2.
It's funny when I look back on week one, that win over St. Louis. I remember someone in the media room saying, this was going to be a big win for the Panthers to get that game-winning field goal from Jake Bates in the opening week. And you go on and look, and really St. Louis went on a huge win streak before running into Birmingham. So it really was a big win for them. I think the Panthers have been very fortunate to roster a team with so much depth, because they've certainly struggled with injuries a lot through the last,
Yeah.
4 weeks.
Yeah, they sure have. And this is something I wanted to bring this up to the coach as well. And I didn't bring, there's a bunch of questions. I mean, we'd like to have them on if we can get them on. But how many teams go on a 4-game winning streak and use 4 different quarterbacks? I
Yeah.
don't know if that's ever happened in any level of professional football.
And it really does say a great credit to this coaching staff, because this offense looks drastically different when you go from EJ Perry to Danny Etling to Brian Lewerke to Bryce Perkins. It's not the same plays that are being called. It's not the same guys being targeted. It's not the same offensive philosophy. But with each guy, they've got really solid production.
You brought up a great point in the press conference. We're going to roll it, excuse me, in just a second, where their starter, all the starters that went down, I mean, except for a couple of wideouts. And basically, at the press conference, you brought up there's a new running back in town. Why don't you go ahead and take it away and explain the players involved and the question that you had?
Well, yeah, my question from last week's game went to Brian Lewerke because he got the first touchdown of the season for Michigan's tight end Cole Hicatini, and I wanted him to break down that play. But you bring up a great point in what's going on in the backfield for the Panthers, because earlier in the game, pretty much the next play from that touchdown, Michigan lost, unfortunately, their starting running back Wes Hills for the season. But that's really opened up opportunity for Matt Coburn. Matt Coburn, really, he did not start early in the season, slowly sort of worked his way into some of the carries that Wes Hills was not getting. And then recently, really in the last 3 weeks, 2 really big games against Memphis, one on the road, one at home. And now he is leading the league in yards per attempt for all rushers with at least 50 carries. So he's going to be a big part of Michigan's offense going forward. I know that the team recently re-signed a running back that was on the roster last year, but look for Matt Coburn to have a big impact on the Panthers playoff run.
Yeah, and he's picking holes that Hills was not able to get earlier. Why? I'm not 100% sure on that. But let's listen to Brian Lewerke's response.
David McDonald, the Pitt Media. Brian, can you go into the play design on that opening touchdown to Cole?
Yeah, so it was an option route for Cole. I think he maybe motioned across. I can't remember, but it was a 2-eye defense. It was cover four, so he was one-on-one with the Mike backer, and that was something I noticed when we snapped it. And I just took a full 3-step drop and hitched into it to give him time to work the backer because he can break in or out. He did a great job of breaking in, and I put a good ball on him. He was able to catch and run and score a touchdown. So
There you heard it from Brian, and I think he kind of agrees with you, David, and that they're going to have some more holes to pick through. Of course, there's a lot more wide receivers out there in the game as well. Marcus Sims was the leading receiver in the UFL. I think after 5 games, he's now slipped to third. I looked at the stats; he could slip to the sixth or seventh, depending on what happens this week.
It is really funny because when you looked at the way Marcus Sims looked when, especially EJ Perry, but also Danny Etling was under center, it was so many different looks of go routes and being lined up on the outside and getting these big plays for 20, 40, 50, 60 plus yards. And now that the offensive philosophy with the two guys in the backfield with Lewerke and Perkins, this is much more of a RPO informed unit that's going to be playing a lot more out of the slot.
And with that, we've seen some new wide receivers come to the forefront for Michigan. And I think throughout the rest of the season, I think they're going to kind of go with Perkins. He's got an arm. He can throw the ball down the field a little bit. And I really like watching it. Lewerke is tricky as well. I mean, he is able to use his wheels to get outside and pick apart and look off a second or third receiver and get the ball down there. But I think the dink and dunk is kind of like where Coach Nolan kind of wants to go with him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at both Perkins and Lewerke, I think you're going to see a lot more of Trey Quinn. Obviously, we had a big game just last week from Devin Gray, but I think you're going to see a lot more of those slot guys, as well as the aforementioned Cole Hicatini. This is the team that really hasn't gone to this point a whole lot of production from their starting tight end. I think that's going to change in these remaining 3 games.
I know you had a topic you wanted to bring up, and David, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to sort of refocus in on Matt Coburn because I think that obviously Michigan is sort of a unique team in the UFL. There's a lot of teams that are being helmed by exciting quarterbacks that like to air it out down the field. Michigan likes to run a much more balanced offense. And that offense really does rely on, hey, even when the running game isn't working in the first half, even when we're averaging, maybe 2.5, 3 yards a carry in those first, 12 carries, we're going to continue to run the ball because we expect to be in close competitive games. And when the fourth quarter comes around, that's going to make a difference for our offense. And you really saw that in this matchup against Memphis last Saturday. This team, I believe I believe that Matt Coburn only had about 47 yards rushing through the first 3 quarters, and then he got an additional 50 or so in the fourth quarter. So just being able to lean on the opposition is pretty clearly something that Michigan expects to do in these competitive games.
And the final topic I think we'll get to this week as we go into our week 9 action is that the defense for the Michigan Panthers, it was really a team. It wasn't just one or two guys. It wasn't Nakua. It wasn't Speaks doing everything. It just seemed like they really spread around the Memphis Showboats out there. They ended up with 4 sacks, 6 tackles for loss. They had the forced fumble. They had the interception. And they took Josh Love. He really wasn't able to get a whole lot going. And Coach Nolan, he really liked hearing that out there. And we're going to get our response after we get his.
The defensive coach, your defensive line just dominated out there today. I think I counted up, it was 6 tackles for loss, 4 sacks, a forced fumble, an interception, and a bunch of welts that don't count in the standings. And that must really make you proud. And everybody got in up front, even the cornerbacks and people pressing off the line. That's something you're going to be working on and going into the playoffs the last couple of weeks.
I appreciate you saying that. Look at the number one thing, and this is pretty simple, but the one thing I'd like for people to say about our defense, the first thing would be that they play like their hair's on fire and they go to the ball. That's number one, because that can overcome a lot of things. I think our defensive line is a position that does that quite frequently. It's a lot of big guys that are pretty talented for our league, in my opinion. And when they play that way, it just kind of makes it look all the better.
Well, you heard Coach Nolan. He really likes the defense. There's no doubt about that. What is your final take?
I actually do think that the Panthers played one of their more complete games on the defensive side of the ball last Sunday. Even though they gave up 18 points, it was a really good showing from the defensive front, the secondary, the linebackers. I think it was a complete showing, and you saw certain guys really rise up. I mean, obviously, you're getting a lot of production from guys like Bryce Tornadin, Kai Nakua. I think we had a really nice game from Kenny Willekes on Sunday, which was
Yeah.
sort of a coming out for him as well. And then obviously one of my favorite guys to watch is Walter Palmore, who forced that fumble potentially could have been another turnover for the Panthers.
Yeah, it could have been, was recovered by the Showboats. But anyway, he got the big lick on him. Well, with that, I think the final thing is that the Panthers, they have their game number 9 this week, and they already know that they're going to play the Stallions 2 straight weeks, week 10,
Yep.
and they're going to play them in the playoffs as well in Birmingham. 2 straight games down there. That's going to be a tough one. You think the Panthers can win one game or both games? What do you think if we have to look ahead at the old crystal ball?
I'm actually intrigued to see whether or not getting these back-to-back matchups against Birmingham on the road is a blessing in disguise for Michigan. Because honestly, I mean, the season finale game isn't going to make any difference in that playoff matchup. So really getting a chance to see, okay, where is Birmingham right now? What can we tweak from one week to the next to win that USFL championship game?
Well, we'd like to thank you for coming on, David. Hopefully, we can have this conversation again next week. And hopefully, we got ourselves a Michigan Panther win. They need this one out there on the road against, was it Arlington this week? And so with that, I think that the Panthers they've grown to become an exciting team. Had over 9,000 fans at their last game. And I tell you what, they get loud. They got some rowdy people out there and in that crowd out there.
Turnout was up last Sunday, and I'll just say this: if you're looking to kill time until the next Panthers game, Panthers social media has done a fantastic job. And just today, they posted a video of Jake Bates at practice hitting, I kid you not, a 70-yard field goal.
Wow. And he's probably got more in him. I'm just kidding. Thanks, Jake.
No, this was something else to see. You're like, this
All right,
kid.
I'll love it. We'll love it both. All right, thanks a lot, everybody. We'll see you next time for week 9. Thanks.